Hi,
Nice to meet
Justin.
you, sir. Hi.
Hi. I hope the weather of India is treating you well.
It's perfect right now. This is perfect weather. It's not too hot, not too cold, so I'm enjoying it.
Incredible. Okay, I'll just jump right into it. Justin, I've always wanted to ask, how much of 100 meter or 200 meter, just basically sprinting, how much is it mental as opposed to physical? Because we all look at sprinters and we see the finely tuned bodies, but how much of it is just mentality?
I think it's a sliding scale. It depends on how well you want to do in that discipline. If you're an average runner, then you're looking at the fact that it's going to be a little more physical than mental.
Right.
Because you can train your body all day, but when you reach the success that you're looking for, if you're not mentally there. But if you are that 1%, that really truly elite athlete that's breaking down the barriers and breaking records and setting a tone, then mental is a strong part. So you're looking at 50%, 50-50, because now you're out there to do something the world has never seen, you have never seen, and you have to be confident in that, but you also have to be physically ready to do that as well.
Great. I also wanted to understand, because you mentioned that for you as an elite athlete, it was a 50-50 breakdown, mental and physical. Have you ever had moments before the race where you looked at a competitor and you knew it was one for you?
Um, I usually try to make sure that I give all respect I can give to all the athletes that I compete against.
Right.
So when I get out there, I'm aware of what they bring to the table that makes them successful, because I have to counter that. So I think that once I get to the starting line, I'm racing against whatever their PR is, whatever their personal best is. They're going to be the best athlete that I know them to be on that day. So I have to be the best athlete I can be.
Great. Also, I wanted to talk to you about, race days. Everybody has butterflies in their stomach, but we look at sprinters, especially 100-meter ones. They seem to have an unnatural bounce in their step that most usually people don't do. So I'm just trying to understand, when you wake up on the day of a big race, maybe a world championship final, Olympics final, do you just jump out of bed and start jogging because you are so excited, or how does that work?
I think the difficult part is controlling your excitement, controlling your readiness for your competition. If you wake up at, let's say, 9 a.m., but you don't compete until 7 p.m., you have a large window of time where you have to wait. And that's usually the case when you're competing in Europe and around the world. Competitions are usually at night, but you still have to go through the whole day to prepare for that moment. So it's like you slow time down a little bit. You give yourself space and windows where you can kind of like think like a normal person for the moment. Eat, have lunch, laugh, talk. But that whole time you are focused, dialed in, and you almost like a quiet storm. So as the moment comes, we get to get on that bus and go to the track, you start getting excited, getting hyped, getting hungry, getting ready for that competition. But the hardest part is the waiting part, is waiting for that moment to come.
Right. I've seen call rooms at the Olympics at Tokyo. So I know how tiny those things are, where you are basically just elbow to elbow with somebody you have to share the biggest moment of your life with. What is the mood in those call rooms? What are you looking at, or are you trying to make eye contact, not trying to make eye contact? What's happening in those moments just before the race?
That's a really good question. I never been asked that question before. Each call room is different. It depends on the pressure. It depends on what is at stake. It depends on what is it to win. If it's Olympic finals, it's usually very tense.
Right.
Because we know that history is about to be made. So everyone's quiet. You have people who are acting like no one else is in the room. They're focused. They're dialed in. And you have some athletes who are talking like we're talking, having a great conversation. And a pivotal moment in their life is about to happen, and they're just normally having a casual conversation. So the energy in the room can vary, from athlete to athlete, but also from competition to competition. So it can be so silent you can hear pin drop, and sometimes it almost feels like you're walking down that hallway to your execution. Sometimes it's really tense and thick in the air.
Right. What's your most memorable call room memory?
I'm probably gonna say actually, probably probably 2017, the call room, being in the stadium, all talking to each other, having a good talk. You have myself, Usain, Johan, all these athletes who are here just having a great time, talking about things that they're going to do after the competition or what they're going to do, next year, or what their vacation spot is. And this is all talk that we have right before we get on the starting line for one of the biggest moments of our life.
Right. You spoke about this conversation that you are having, but how much of running, let's say you and Usain or you and Johan, how much of that is also the unsaid words? I think I saw an interview of yours where you mentioned that in 2015, after he beat you at the World Championships, he looked behind and gave you a glance which kind of implied and told you that, this should have been your race to win. So when you're running, when you're competing against each other, how much of that is the unsaid words, the side glances that you give to each other?
That's a good. It's more posturing. Like sometimes it's really unsaid. It's your body language, the body language of your competitors. If it shows confidence, it's like you said earlier, how you have that pep in your step as you get up and go. You're showing your competitors that I'm energetic, I'm ready. You know what I mean? I'm ready to have a great race. So that can play a mind game for you when you're in the warm-up area. Even when you go out there and you're putting your blocks, to set for your race, then you look at the crowd and you feel the crowd. Your competitors are watching you too. So it's a lot of unsaid, posturing that goes with male sprinting.
And how much? What's your favorite memory from just this bit where you're posturing when you're trying to convey a message without even using words?
I'm going to say 2004. If you go back and watch 2004 in its entirety, we were out there on the track maybe 15 or almost 15 minutes before it was time to run. And that's unheard of, Usually they bring you out maybe 8 minutes before it's time to run. So we're out there setting out blocks, pushing out the blocks, running down the straightaway. The crowd is cheering and clapping. The music's playing. It almost turns into a small party before even the 100-meter starts. Mm-hmm. So, you're watching your teammates sit on their lane cones or laying on the track, trying to rest their body before a competition. But everyone's ready. Everyone's excited. Everyone is ready to go. And it's just about who's most focused and dialed in. Even posturing, you've got to throw that out the window and say, I'm here to get competition and get the job done.
Right. You and Usain, everybody keeps talking about this rivalry that you guys had on the track. But besides the rivalry, was there like a human moment between the two of you where you guys just connected? Maybe you looked at each other and thought that, we just shared a special moment in history, something like that?
I think that special moment actually was in 2017 when we crossed the finish line. I think the world was able to see that it wasn't a bitter rivalry, we was able to embrace win or lose, and him coming up to me and telling me congratulations, be the first person to tell me that spoke volumes of not only, how great an athlete he was, but the character he has as well.
Right. And can you just talk to us a little bit about the role that you play in his life? And at some point when people talk about legacies, the role that he had in shaping your legacy and you had in shaping his?
It was totally organic. It's not like we spoke often. We were rivals. We were our toughest competitors throughout our career. So I think when I look back and I realized that we were there to make history together. We were there to push each other. It was a point in time, I think he says in his documentary that, he felt like it was time for him to retire. And then he heard me speak how I wanted to be able to compete at a higher level, and it kind of gave him that fire back in him, and it's the same thing when I saw him run in 2008. I wasn't intimidated at all. I was excited. I said, I want to race that guy right there. That's the guy I want to compete against. Because when you have a top competitor, two top competitors, they push each other. And they push each other to limits where the world will recognize it and history will recognize it.
I think you also mentioned in one of your previous interviews that you used to have a hit list of sorts where you would write down the names of people who not only had doubted you, but people who you had to compete against at some point. and you would keep a check on how many times you'd beaten them over the year. Uh, can you just talk to us from where that idea came from, and how many years did you maintain that hit list for?
I'll be at the hit list for from 12 all the way to probably 17, 18, something like that. I think that the hit list was a mental check for myself to be able to gauge my success, and especially within a season. If I can go through to see exactly who I beat, how many times I beat them, how many times they beat me, it'll give me a better footing in realizing the clarity of how successful I am in that season. And it also kind of like distracts you a little bit, instead of thinking about racing and running and training all the time, or even have your focus somewhere else. I was able to get up in the morning, look at that list, and be like, all right, this is what I'm training for today. This is who I'm training to beat today. And then that's the same thing. I'll go into competition. I'll feel that same way I'll come back all the way from around the world, and I'll just put a little check mark next to the names when I get back home.
And is that a list that you carried along with you everywhere, or was it like put in your training place?
I usually kept it at home. I would maybe take a screenshot of it or a photo of it, and keep it with me just so I have a mental list for each place I go. But it was there, mounted on my wall in my house.
Right. I wanted to understand that Tokyo, we saw, a runner from Italy, US. None of the usual suspects, you included, Usain included, were there. What do you think is the one thing that you would like to be remembered for the most?
Being a fighter, being a competitor. We're all talented. We all have a level of talent that gets us in the door and gets us into this club of elite sprinters. But the competition and the way you look at competition and how you execute your race, how you fight for it, I think that's what separates me from a lot of the other sprinters. I don't look at it as just a race. I look at it as combat. I look at it as a fight, a war, a battle that I'm trying to win. So for that, I think I hope my legacy leaves that not only am I a sprinter, but I'm also a fighter. Not in just track and field, but in life.
Right. Justin Gatlin, thank you so much for doing this. That was a great interview.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.